Welcome back, folks. Today's Thursday, July 31st, 2025, Major League Baseball's trade deadline. Born on this date in 1916, the late infielder and manager Billy Hitchcock of Inverness. That's in Bullock County. He managed the Braves over parts of a couple seasons and was the president of the Southern League. That's the Double-A league that now includes the Trash Pandas, Barons, and Biscuits. During the 70s, he was the president there. In 1956, actor Michael Bain of Anniston. He's no daisy at all. And in 1982, former Troy State and NFL linebacker DeMarcus Ware of Auburn. Today's National Chili Dog Day, folks. Watch yourself. Today we have Birmingham partnering with the ATF, where we rank among states for affordable housing, and some Southern history that affected refrigeration and air conditioning, some things that are near and dear to everyone's heart this week. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama.
Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
The man who was wrongly accused in the 1989 mail bomb killing of Judge Robert Vance has died, reports AL.com's Mike Cason. Robert Wayne O'Farrell and his former wife, Mary Ann Martin, tried suing over the negative impact the investigation and its atmosphere had on their lives and finances. Robert Vance, a federal judge in Birmingham, died after a mail bomb explosion at his home that also injured his wife, Helen. Investigators thought they had connected typewriting on labels attached to the bombs to a typewriter that O'Farrell used to write court filings. They searched O'Farrell's home and junk warehouse and dug up his septic tank. And it was a huge news story at the time, creating a big spectacle that zeroed in on O'Farrell for a bit. Authorities ended up arresting a Georgia man, Walter Leroy Moody Jr. He was convicted of murdering Vance and executed in 2018. O'Farrell's funeral will be today. He was 81 years old. The city of Birmingham has entered into an agreement with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives to help fight gun violence, reports AL.com's Greg Garrison. The ATF will use its Integrated Ballistic Information Network in Birmingham shooting investigations. The ballistics intelligence should help identify sources of the guns and hopefully shooters. According to the ATF, they can share the information across the U.S. The agreement will stay in place up to 3 years, and it won't cost the city anything. Now, if you ever think about one day cashing everything out and moving to a state where it's cheaper to buy a home, I have really bad news for you. According to data from an analysis by Property Shark, Alabama is still the least expensive place to buy a house, reports AL.com's Diane Moy. Even as a couple of areas in the state see a population boom, and even as the national average for a home is past $400,000, the average house in Alabama costs just $220,000. Compare that to California, where the median home price is $825,000, and you can see one of the reasons why some of those ex-Californians have been showing up in Baldwin County. The states where home prices average $250,000 or less are Alabama, Iowa, Oklahoma, Ohio, West Virginia, Louisiana, and Missouri. The study confirmed that many of the most affordable places to buy a home are in the South and the Midwest. Those states also tend to have lower or even no real estate transfer taxes. Hey, let's take a really quick break, and then we have some thoughts on the history of refrigeration and air conditioning. and one of its key moments in the hot and sticky South. Y'all stay with us.
Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
Hey folks, as a nod to the dog days of summer, which we have certainly sampled this week throughout Alabama, I thought we'd take the time to remember a pioneer of air conditioning who worked in our part of the country, if a little outside the state. Now, I know some of you have vacationed on St. George Island or snorkeled for scallops in St. Joe Bay, so you're familiar with the part of Florida that's outside the 30A hustle. Dr. John Gorey was from South Carolina and lived in Apalachicola before the Civil War. You were tough if you lived in Apalachicola before the Civil War. Aside from heat and humidity that would make the devil break out a church fan, you lived in a thick, swampy coastal neighborhood full of briars and prickle pears and various things that might want to feed on you. Here's an illustration of that. The big swamp between the Apalachicola and Ochlockonee rivers is known as Tate's Hell. Now, no one ever really questions that name, but there is a story behind it. A version of the story behind it is that a man named Sebe Tate went into that swamp to hunt a panther that was eating his livestock. Now, another version has Tate going into the swamp to chase his dog, who had gone after a panther. But there are lots of stories. They kind of come together in a couple of places. The big point is that nobody saw Tate for a week. And when he emerged, haggard and wild-eyed, in the town of Carabel, he approached some people, told them, "My name is Sebe Tate, and I've been through hell." He collapsed, and he died. Now, what I'm saying is, it was tough country before SUVs and outboard motors there. But it wasn't the heat and humidity directly that inspired Dr. John Gorey to become a pioneer in refrigeration and air conditioning. It was an outbreak of deadly yellow fever. During the mid-1800s, people didn't yet realize that mosquitoes were the main cause of yellow fever and malaria. A few people had suspected they played a role, such as Dr. Josiah Knott in Mobile, but others believed it was the heat that caused the diseases to take off. Malaria, if you examine the word, means bad air. It was a logical conclusion. After all, cases of yellow fever and malaria rose in the summertime and fell during colder months, along with the mosquito population. Because ice had to be shipped from the Northeast down the Atlantic coast and around the Florida Keys before it could get back up to the northern Gulf Coast, it wasn't a convenient way for Gorey to cool down his patients. So Gorey put aside his work as a physician and spent much of the 1840s focusing on trying to make air cooler. In 1848, he patented a way to compress air, which warms it, cool the air by running it through pipes and water, then expanding the air once again in order to achieve cold, even freezing temperatures. He struggled to figure out how to make and sell the cooling systems, though, and he never knew the absolute hero that he would become. He died in 1855 and is buried in Apalachicola. Now, since then, he's had a monument, a museum, and a bridge named after him in Apalachicola. Also named after him were 2 schools, a statue, and a dog park elsewhere in Florida, and even a World War II ship. We are, after all, proud of our air conditioning. And every year around this time, while we're sitting in a room, sucking down cool air, we ought to take a moment and appreciate the work Gory and others did. They walked so we could, well, chill. Thank y'all so much for listening to us. We're going to be back here again in the morning. Until then, y'all come by and see us anytime you want to on the internet at al.com.